I'm Larry O'Brien. I moved to Lopez in 1971. Fished. Actually, I was on a reef gear. Second year I was here, I went out with Steve Orcutt and those guys at Davis Bay. They had a reef gear going, and that was my first experience. And then thought I wanted to be a gill netter, and at that time there were 1,700 licensed gill netters in Puget Sound, and over half of them lived on Lopez Island. McKay Harbor was so full of boats. You had the Bumblebee barge in there, which is 2 stories, and they served breakfast in there upstairs in a coffee room. Bought fish down below. There was other buyers, cash buyers in the bay. Bumblebee wasn't a cash buyer, but they were our bank because there was no bank on Lopez at that time. We had no financial. The only place to cash a check was the local tavern or the ferry landing. You could cash checks at the ferry landing. So if we needed money for nets, we went through Bumblebee Seafood. You were obligated then, of course, to sell your fish to Bumblebee, deliver to them. And they had the dockage, they had the dock space there. And so that's where we sort of ended up. And it was a good relationship. They were fair people to deal with. And yeah, so I wanted to fish, and I was a school teacher. I taught school here for 30 years in the wintertime. And the local people, it was interesting. There was there was a lot of old-time fishermen here because a lot of people really depended on the fishing to supplement their carpentry jobs or their farming or whatever they were doing at that time. And there was only 600 and some people on the island when I came. For a long time it was just slow. And it was territories. I mean, the first time I went over south of San Juan, my boat said Lopez on the back. It was at the old Bristol Bay Hall I had, the first one, the boat I had, the original one. And I got told, get out of here. You know, you're Lopez, you're not San Juan, and we don't want, you're not supposed to be here. And then, of course, I had the same thing. I got threatened with my life going to Bellingham Bay and fishing for kings. I was told the same thing, And I got shot at down in Hood's Canal. Later, we had people shooting at us out there. But that was back, for 5 years, I was in between my fishery, and I ended up working with the Nooksack Indians and had a really great relationship with them. I ended up as an instructor because the boat decision had happened and they were wanting to get able to fish. They had the rights to fish, but they didn't have the knowledge or the boats to fish. So I got involved with them for about 5 years, I think it was. And that was a good experience. I mean, I fished my openings and helped them with their openings. But in the process, we got shot at a couple of times, and so things are kind of interesting. All these ups and downs and going back and forth. But for the most part, it was it's like any experience. Eventually, when I finished fishing, I think we were fishing 250 meshes deep. So it's 100 and some feet down that net went, and 1,800 feet long. So that was kind of the evolution of the fishery. And then, of course, you went into monofilament nets, and it all changed over time. But yeah, and then the government was doing this buyback program, and it was getting to where it wasn't really worth fishing anymore. I think the gill netters were taken off the water because of shipping. We were having constant conflicts with tugboats and tows. I mean, I got ran over a couple of times. And also oil tankers run up here to Anacortes or up to Cherry Point. And they were always in trouble with us because they would get out of the shipping lanes and chew up a $5,000 net. And so there's always this hassles going on. And it was just better for them to not have us out there in the water. So the government said, yeah, we'll buy your license and retire your license and take that off the fishery, and drop the number of boats back. And they had 2 different buybacks. It was a lottery way of doing it. I was in the second group that got taken off the water, basically, I guess. And that meant the boat couldn't be used in the fishery anymore either. So my boat got converted to a pleasure boat, and the guy bought it. But that was the end of the fishery for us. They're good to eat. You know, my attitude toward them, it was just meant a way of making additional income. Teachers did not get paid a whole lot of money here. And some years I'd make more fishing in 5 weeks in the summer than I could teaching school for 9 months. So it was a way of supplementing, and then eventually they got to where that wasn't possible, but that was, a love affair of the salmon, yeah, I'd rather eat a lingcod or a cod almost, but I don't know, they were fun. I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed catching them. It was always neat to catch them, but it wasn't something I was passionate. I mean, the fish itself I wasn't that passionate about, to tell you the truth. Lopez at one point was considered the graveyard of the Bristol Bay. I mean, everybody else got newer, fancier boats than Lopez. Even Friday Harbor was way ahead of us, but Lopez had all these old beater up old Bristol Bay hulls that had been around since the 1920s. And I don't know why more of us didn't die, you know, to tell you the truth. There was some that did sink and people did get killed, but it was kind of an interesting area to fall into and be part of. You know, it was, yeah, interesting experience.